Hey there, everyone. Jason here. I'm going to double check that we are live to make sure we show up. We have a great guest to get today, and I don't want to uh, have anything go up that makes us miss out on all the great things we are going to talk about. Looks like we are good to go. Awesome. So, hey there. I'm Jason Logston, and this is Makin Bacon. We're all about helping you serve your fans, grow your income, and get the most out of your blog. Today's sponsor is my very own Web Stories Made Easy email course. We've all heard people excitedly talk about Google Web Stories on social media, in mastermind groups, and on podcasts. But what the heck are web stories? How are they different from all the other stories that are out there? And what's the best way to integrate them into your own blog? I didn't know the answers to that, so I dove into a lot of the research out there and wrote everything up and created this course so that you can understand how to get the most out of them for your own blog. You can check that out for free at makethatbacon.com/webstories. Now, on to the show. As bloggers, we understand how important video is to connecting with our audiences. But how can you get started with video, especially cooking videos, and where the heck can you find time to do it all? Luckily, today's guest is the perfect person to help us out. They're the social media and marketing specialist for Ecamm Live, a live production studio for the Mac. They partner with folks from around the world to create engaging community-first experiences with live video. Most frequently, you will catch them hosting conversations on Clubhouse about content repurposing, live videos, video podcasting, or a combination of the three. When they're not working, they are enjoying film, listening to a true crime podcast, or watching a Twitch stream. They were raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and currently reside in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I can't wait to learn from today's guest, Caleb from Ecamm Network, creators of Ecamm Live. Caleb, welcome to Makin Bacon.
Hey, Jason, thanks for having me on today. I'm super excited to be here and just talk about Ecamm, but also talk about content repurposing and all things kind of sprinkling the content over the internet.
I'm looking forward to connecting on a different platform. Caleb and I have been doing a lot of Clubhouse rooms together that Kathy Hester has been putting on, and it's always fun diving in and learning from all of your expertise there. And I'm excited to have you on the podcast to really kind of dive into it a little bit more. But before I get started, I always like to ask, what is it like around your dinner table on a typical day?
Oh, so I don't have a dinner table in my apartment. We just have this little bar, like the kitchen island. So it's just me and my partner at the kitchen island on a good day. But most of the time I end up cooking our little Hungry Root meal prep box dinner and then eating on the couch and watching some Disney Plus show or like Netflix streaming show, some sort of streaming show. We've been watching a lot of docuseries on HBO Max right now.
Anything good that you would say is can't miss?
I really liked The Dale. It was a really cool docuseries about a transgender woman who in like a 60s or 70s went up against rival automotive factors to make the first three-wheeled car, and her kind of life story and how that went. It was really good, and it's definitely binge-worthy, but I would also recommend spreading it out over the course of like a few dinners.
That's always the hard thing, right? You have something that's really good and you kind of just want to dive into it and go right through it, and then it's over and you're sad.
I know. I was talking to my partner the other night. I was like, I really wish I could have one more episode of The Dale. Like, I know the story's over. Like, I know it's over, but like, what if there was just one more?
just a little epilogue, a little,
Yeah, I'm like, it's always hard too, because it's like this when I'm watching a lot of docuseries, it's about people that have passed away or past events that are like no longer anything that can be covered. And so I'm like, where are they now? And I'm like, well, they're not.
So I want to talk about Ecamm. Ecamm is a great program. It's something that I've been using both for cooking classes, when I've been doing live hands-on classes, and when I've been doing demos, and for presentations. If anyone listening saw me at Tastemaker, then you saw how I use it to maximize both my slides and my video, because my slides are mainly words. I don't like just having a small little picture of me at the bottom. I like kind of letting people see my face a little bit more. So Caleb, can you talk a little bit about what Ecamm does?
Yeah, so Ecamm Live is an app for Macs, and it's kind of like an all-in-one video production studio. When we first created it, a lot of the core features and a lot of our creators were using it primarily for live stream, but we have record-only functions. So it's really a powerful tool that allows you to create video content, live demos, add in graphic elements that you would normally do in post-production, but you get to put kind of that thought and care into the pre-production process to make your videos seamless, whether they're live or recorded, and save you a lot of time on the editing at the end of the day. And then it also has a lot of cool features when it comes to like virtual cameras. So if you teach private like one-on-one cooking courses and you still want to brand those, you can use our virtual camera feature and bring your like production studio and like your branding elements into your Zoom class or into any app or that uses virtual camera. And if it doesn't have a virtual camera access, you can probably normally access it from Google Chrome, which allows virtual camera too. So it's a really cool way to like brand anything you're doing that's video related.
And to your point about like needing to come up with like some of the stuff that you would normally do in post that you can do during the video, it has saved me so much time on the back end that it's now I have the shots that I need, even if I'm not doing it live. Like I get the shots that I need because I've thought about it ahead of time versus getting to post and being like, oh, I really wish I had a different angle of this because I need it. Like I've had to think through the process already.
I've been doing a live every day in April challenge. And so it started off as like, this is like the first time I'm really going to really get into doing a lot of live videos all at once. And it's like, here's my daily prompt. And then, so at first I'm just like, I'm just going to go live. I'm such a verbal processor. But now I really see the value in like taking my prompt, thinking through it strategically and like what I'm going to do, even if it's not like, doesn't need to be branded and dramatic. It's like still something that you probably want to think about before you just go live and babble for a little bit. It helps you kind of create a start, middle, and end to your storytelling. And Ecamm has a lot of like scene features. So you can build out like, here's my intro scene and here is my middle scene and here's my end slide with my call to actions and all of that stuff. So if you take the time into the pre-production, you can have an entire like front to back run of show that creates like really powerful YouTube videos, demonstrations, and then there's like a super minimal editing you need to do in any editing application, which is lovely.
Yeah, I love the ability to pre-create scenes. When I was doing some hands-on cooking classes, it was great to have, the one of me wide, just me, the one of just the food, kind of the close-up, and then the split screen that could show both of them and that I could roll with most of the time. And it was great to just be able to seamlessly transition between those. And I was teaching my class on Jibo and using, like you said, the virtual cam that, Ecamm just, you can use it as basically a webcam and it's just already all the different feeds and graphics and stuff are already there. And so I didn't have to worry about using Chibo to switch their camera views and stuff, which I always get lost in their software and get confused. So it's definitely saved me doing that.
And it can be like, that's like a good point. Like there's so many different softwares out right now, which all are made to help. But it's like, if you have Ecamm that's like a web virtual camera, and it goes into a program like that, and you're not super familiar with the camera switching features or anything like that, you have that to kind of fall back on. And we just added a preview mode feature. So if you're like live and you need to make a change on the fly, like you forgot to drop in the correct recipe text, you can like make edits while you're live and then present it like there's no like editing, that you don't have to show the edits that you make while you're live anymore, which is really
nice.
Cool.
I love the features, like how it is just around doing live stuff, and a lot of the features and you can tell there was thought of for how can people use this while they're in the middle of doing their thing. Like we'll help you get set up ahead of time, but as soon as you hit go, right, like your plan is out the window. You're going to have to change stuff. So you've made it very easy to change stuff on the fly, which is great. We have Michael Shardy in the comments says he loves Ecamm. It saved his butt with a big virtual fundraiser that raised over $80,000. I think, was that your Meals on Wheels fundraiser, Mike? I know he's involved in an organization that's doing a food truck that you can sponsor, like the wheels, and sponsor the spatulas, and basically like everything in the food truck for, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. I love that. If you ever like do a fundraiser like that and you want to send it to Ecamm, you can always send us a DM, and we love to hear about stuff that you guys are creating with Ecamm. So
nice. Yeah, I love the Ecamm community. Is great too. It's very responsive and very and very easy to work with. I like working with all of y'all.
Yeah, it's a community with over 15,000 people that are live streaming mostly daily, and most of them are using Ecamm Live. So if you are asking a question on a weekend, we don't have weekend support. So it's like drop the question in there and you'll get an answer. And then we'll be back on Monday to make sure that you have an answer if you didn't find one. But it's an incredible community where you can run ideas by people. I call it noodle boarding. So just throwing the noodle at the wall and seeing when the idea is ready to stick. It's a great place for meeting like-minded people.
I love that phrase, noodle boarding. Yeah, I read something about using the term like noodling, that's what they use now when they really just want to like a brainstorming type session. Because they're like, if you say let's get together and noodle board, like no one's going to be like, this is a super serious meeting that I need to like be super critical. You're like, no, we're just throwing stuff on the wall and we're going to figure out creative solutions so it doesn't constrain people.
Exactly. And when I was in like all of my marketing classes, I would be like, all right, let's say all the craziest ideas that we have right now. And then let's find the realistic version of that crazy idea that we can pull off in 3 days for this project. And so I loved the concept of like, you start with it and you just kind of keep throwing ideas against the wall and shortening it down and cooking it down into something that's really like digestible for whatever you're doing.
At the Tastemaker conference, I did a presentation on like solving problems, figuring out what your fans' problems are, and then coming up with all the solutions you can. And I talk about like write down every single solution and don't like criticize yourself, because our brains are like they react to our kind of filtering just like they react to someone else's. If I'm like, Caleb, you want to grab lunch? And you're like, yeah, where you want to go? I'm like, I don't care. And you're like, Mexican? I'm like, no. Italian? No. Thai? No. You're gonna be like, well, then you pick. Like, I'm done coming up with stuff. And our brains do the same thing, that once you start judging those ideas that come out, you will never get to the good ideas because your brain's like, I'm done getting criticized.
Yeah. And also like the concept of starting with a bigger picture of like, and presenting two options makes it so much easier for our brain to digest than presenting like any options. It's like, would you rather have like Asian cuisine or like American cuisine? Makes it like the funnel go down easier. And so if you just keep like niching out by two, it makes the brain and like our minds think a little bit quicker about what we actually want without having to do as much work. And it's because kind of like, I'm panicking. How many options in the world are there? Like,
I also am surprised how often I'll have like 3 or 4 bad ideas together. And when I'm reading through them, like you can take parts of them that form a good idea, that on their own, they were bad ideas, but components of them that if I wouldn't have written them down, I would have forgotten about, end up combining in ways that are kind of novel and are actually useful.
I feel like I'm constantly coming back to like ideas that I've halfway thought out forever ago. And I'm like, wait, this was really crazy when I said it the first time and the second time and the third time. But half of what I said was a good idea. And that's what I need to hold on to for this 4th round of edits. So
it's like, why do I keep coming back to this? It's not for the second half of it, but that first half has a lot of potential.
Exactly.
So you are all about video, especially live video. Can you talk about some of the ways that bloggers can use video? Like, what are the types of video content that people can kind of explore?
Yeah. So I mean, when I think of cooking, I immediately think of like, you have this one-on-one like cooking courses or cooking sections. And a lot of times that content starts as like a recipe. And if it's not already a blog post, it's eventually going to be made into a blog post. So creating like these like one-on-one cooking demos of like, hey, like today we're making these 3 recipes. And Kathy Hester I've done so many of her like cooking classes, but she does such a good job doing this and like making it engaging and switching out ingredients to help people accommodate their dietary restrictions. And so when I see like that, I look at it from like okay, now she has an hour and a half, 2-hour long live stream with 3 different recipes that she can just throw into a transcription software and like cut up everything. And then she doesn't have to type out that full blog post. She can just go through and find the sections of the transcripts, make small edits, rephrase things so it's an evergreen version of that content, and then go from there. Plus, you have that video content, right? So you can chop that up even smaller, make it into an Instagram reel with the highlights of like, today I made this. But if you're allergic to peanuts, try using this flavor instead because it's a wonderful compliment and it helps people not have go into anaphylactic shock. So
always a good thing.
Always a great thing. So that's like one way I really feel like people in the food sphere could be using live video. But then even from there, I think circling back to that pre-production mindset, identifying who your target audience is of your blogs that you're doing or what content that you're normally pushing out on different spheres, what content you're creating, and then identifying the question you're going to be covering in the video, how you speak about it to each of those audience segments throughout the show, and then creating your run of show around the idea that this video is more than just a video. It could, if you put the 4 hours of time into pre-production that you would normally put spread out into like all your social media posts, all your blog posts, all like your live video production about the one topic, then you have an hour-long live stream that you drop into an app like Descript, and you go through and you highlight everything. You have tweets already crafted that link to your blog post. You've edited it into a blog post. You now have video clips that are related to the blog post. So you have like all of this evergreen content that you can spread out over the course of 2 months. So if you're doing something on new tech, like if Apple just released a new computer, right? They're not going to release another new computer for about 3 to 4 months. So your content is, if you get that at the beginning, your content is now good to be reshared for that 3 to 4 month window. And if you do like 1 or 2 live streams about it, like here's my 1 month check-in, like you have 1 whole month lifespan out of that until you make the next one, and then you have another month's lifespan. And so it's really an easy way to batch content. It's kind of all of what I'm saying in a TLDR way.
For sous vide, which is what my Amazing Food Made Easy blog's all about, a lot of people don't know how to sous vide different pieces of meat. So people will always, search like, how do you sous vide ribeye? How do you sous vide chicken breast? How do you sous vide carrots? And as we know from like an SEO standpoint, having the exact same text on each page does not fly well with Google, even though a lot of these things are like the same. Like you sous vide a ribeye pretty much the same as you sous vide a strip steak and, all the other types of steak. So trying to come up with the content of, like the tips for it. Can you cook this from frozen? Can you, all those kind of expert tips that like Casey Marquis suggests you having in your recipes. I hate doing that. It's so frustrating to be like, I have to reword the exact same stuff that's saying the same thing time and time again. But when I talk, I don't say the same thing because I don't have a perfect memory. So I found that I can do it on video. I've gone live a few times. I've done it not live, but on camera, and it works great for kind of the type of thing that you're saying, that I will have, here's the talking points. I know my subject matter enough, so I might have a note or two for like what I need to say, but I know like how to cook from frozen. I know the time and temperatures. And then I just do a live stream talking about all these different things. And it's really a deep dive into a specific piece of meat. And then my communities engage, they're in there, they're communicating and having a good time. And then at the end, like you said, I throw it into Descript, which is what we use. It works great. Break it down into the different components. My mom, who does our VA work, takes that transcription and turns it into the article on the site. So we have all the text there. We can use quotes from it if we want to on social media. And it really creates all that content without me having to sit down and be like, okay, I need to take this and I need to reword it over here, even though it says the exact same thing.
And then you can go like further with that. So like micro content is big right now, but it's like going to be around for a while, right? So when you think about the whole hour-long video, you could have like one blog that's like sous vide steak master blog post, and then all of those little niche things that would fall under that can be separate articles that you link to. You can take that live video and you can chapter it on YouTube if it's living on YouTube, and you can link directly to that chapter. Those chapter titles are indexed by Google as well. So if you're creative with your chapter titles and using the right SEO keywords, it'll help your video be found better. And then like you can even take it a step further and find the most engaging portions of your live streams and clip them into like a highlights reel. Because if I'm going to your YouTube page for the first time and I see you're making a bunch of 1 hour long tutorials, it's a little daunting for me to buy into a 1 hour video. But if I see that you have like these 3-minute explainer clips from your live stream that was like a really good clip of you explaining how to do something, then I'll watch that. And then I'll be like, oh, this is from the full stream. Like he probably talks about what he does next. So I should just go ahead and watch it. So those are like smart ways to do it. And then you can also use shorts. Now YouTube has the shorts feature. So you can take anything that's less than a minute long and vertical and chop it up into vertical content. And we've been playing around with that. And I like it a lot because if you have any pre-recorded content that you're premiering, you can add it as a trailer. So I've been doing these little like 1-minute trailers about fun features that you can use with Ecamm before our live video with our premiered video with an expert goes live to talk about how they're using Ecamm to power their magic shows. That's premiering today at 4. But like, so there's a bunch of things you can do to just dice up your live video and sprinkle it everywhere.
I like how you phrased it too, that this isn't necessarily like doing things on top of what you normally do. You can take those 4 hours you would normally spend, use it all at one time, basically to prepare yourself. And then all that content's created and you don't have to worry about doing it kind of piecemeal over time.
Exactly. I would also recommend that, like, if you want to really invest into this strategy, to be smart about your content calendar. So you can make live video really easy, but in 6 months, if you've made a bunch of live videos really easy, and now you're sitting on 6 months worth of content, it's really hard to start repurposing from there. So think about this content strategy when you start incorporating live video at the beginning, and it'll make your life in 3 months down the road and 6 months down the road a lot easier. But if you are doing live video and you've been doing it for a while and you're just thinking about incorporating it, don't be scared. Think about what you've already done from your live video, which of your live videos perform the best. And when you get time to go back and repurpose, start from your look at your performance, your analytics, and start from there and find what you're repurposing.
Yeah, you're almost in a better place if you haven't been doing it, because now you can be like, I'm going to start from the best, and I'm, as opposed to having to do every one.
Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely understand the overwhelm that we were going to repurpose for a while, and then we were busy, and so we didn't get around to it. And so I'm going back and listening to every podcast I've done and pulling out the quotes that I want and the features and doing all that. It's just like, okay, every podcast has 30 good quotes. And now I have a list of like 800 quotes that I need to write analysis on. This is great. We're doing one. It's like, oh, this is an hour of time or whatever. Like it's trivial to go through and do them one at a time. But when you look back and you're like, I got 50 episodes, this is going to take a while. Yeah.
I also like, there's this tool I've been using right now called Missing Letter. I don't remember if it's .io. Everything I feel like is .io these days.
Say probably .io.
But it's called Missing Letter. And so it's like, once I get that transcription finished, edited into a blog post, I have that RSS feed loading into Missing Letter immediately, and I get 50 free posts from them without paying for anything. And it'll import that RSS feed, and I can choose if I want to post that blog like over the course of 2 weeks, super light, heavily over the course of 2 weeks, over 2 months, over 6 months, over 12 months. So I've also started using that. If you are producing a lot of content and you don't have time to cut up the video from it, start there with your blog and see what blogs are getting the most clicks from just text only, because that probably indicates that your video on that content is going to perform well as well, because your audience is already interested in just the text tips that you're sharing. So I'll go through and it'll auto-generate like 20 hashtags, and I'll cull it down to like 5 hashtags, and it'll pull all the media that I use on the blog, and it will pull depending on the campaign, it'll pull anywhere from like 8 to 20 quotes from the blog, and then give you like other suggestions. And then you just kind of upload them all, and it shows you what days they're spread across. You can go in and like manually edit your like the times you want to post. Like, I don't want any of our blogs to go live on Saturday or Sunday because we're not working on Saturday and Sunday. And I don't want to feel like pressured to reply to somebody that found this interesting on Saturday and Sunday. So from there, you can like edit and tweak things. And it's super simple way for me to batch tweets. I use it primarily for Twitter, but you can only connect one social profile from the free account and you get 50 scheduled posts, but that's a lot. I have like an entire month of blogs done. I finished yesterday and I'm like, I've never had so much on my social calendar a month in advance. I could cry. like I can do my projects that I've had on the back burner for 2 weeks.
I know you're a huge proponent of like using tools because we've talked about this, and Missing Letter and Descript. And it's like, it is amazing that some of these things are on the more pricey side, but it's like the amount of time that it can save you to, like you just said, focus on your actual projects instead of these recurring tasks that you kind of have to do over and over again. It's really huge. What other tools have you found to be really helpful, either from the video side or from the repurposing side?
Yeah, so I use Descript a lot because it helps me with our entire YouTube strategy. If it's a live video, if it's a pre-recorded video, it goes into Descript. I pull the captions from it to make our videos accessible, but also because that gives YouTube another set of keywords to index into our searches. If it's closed caption, they're probably going to promote it better. And then I add chapters because live videos are long and I want them to feel searchable for people that are just getting in or watching the replay. So it's like always my number one step that I try to do. And then from there, when I'm doing those things, I will like read and highlight and I'll take notes about like how this piece of content makes sense to be repurposed. And primarily after that, it's like done. I don't really like spruce anything up because Descript, when it exports it with captions added into it. I can burn in the captions all inside of Descript. But if there is something I need to add, I typically use Canva to do it. Or if there's a little bit more editing that I need to do that Descript doesn't offer, I will throw it into an Adobe like Rush program just because it's super simple, but still offers more editing tools than Descript does. And if I need to take it even a step further, I'll go into Premiere Pro. But I just have the whole Adobe suite, so that makes it easy. And then beyond that and Missing Letter, those are like the super simple two tools that I've been using for like my repurpose strategy right now. The third thing I've been really like exploring and playing with is some not new features, but new to me features inside of Agorapulse. That's what we use for our social media management. And they have a bulk import thing like feature. So I can write everything in a spreadsheet where the first column is all of the copy for my text and the second column is all of the links. And then I put it in and I can say like, this falls into this category of strategy. So like I right now we have five content pillars at Ecamm. So I'm creating evergreen content for each of those content pillars. And I go through once a month and add any new things that would fall into evergreen content. And those are just in Agorapulse cycling, and they don't post the same thing within like 2 weeks of each other. So you can set like those parameters and what places you want them to go out on. But that's taken a little bit more time to get up and running. I'm trying to think.
I did something similar. I've been using Bulkly, which ties into Buffer to kind of reschedule posts. It's been adequate, I think. It was the best thing that I could find when I got into it, but it definitely, I think somebody created it as like addressing their own pain point, and now it's starting to take off, and they're like trying to catch up to make it usable for everyone,
Exactly.
As a programmer, I've seen lots of my own work that I'm like, yeah, this is a horrible interface, but I know how it works, so it's fine. And it felt like that. So I'm still looking for other options. I just had, I think Publi was recommended as well for rescheduling like content that's evergreen that you can just kind of set it up once, and then, every 6 months it shows up again, but your fans have forgotten about it by then, or they want a reminder about it, and you're good to go.
Especially if it's on Twitter. Twitter is like the easiest place to lose or forget about a piece of content. I also just downloaded or got a subscription for Designer, I think is the name of the app. It imports your blog posts to make ebooks super simply for like lead generation. They were running a lifetime deal the day that I found out about it for like $30 for the like entry level plan. So I haven't explored to see like if I love it or whatever, but it was $30. And I feel like it would be useful for us to like, we run a lot of mini series that are like basically public masterclasses on specific topics. So my goal is to like take and have our like intro chapter be like the top 10 takeaways you're going to learn from this ebook. And then all of the blog posts spread out into like ebook chapters that you can get. And then once the series is done, all of those are, though that freebie ebook is like a lead gen tool that's embedded into each of our blog posts about podcasting, if it's about podcasting, or about remote production, if it's a remote production series.
I love that concept. And I think that's something that a lot of the listeners need to get their heads around, is that the more you can repurpose your content, and if you can look at this and say, I'm going to start here, this is what the kind of the pyramid of content that's going to come out of it, you can really plan your overall content strategy a lot more easily. And then you can really save a lot of time on the creation side, because it's all coming out at once and you don't have to worry about redoing it basically time and time again.
Yep. And I also think, like, talking again about pre-production, I feel like I always circle back to that. But if you are going to be super specific about talking about sous vides, then it could be worth it looking up like trending SEO words about sous vide, and then like having them on a little sticky note when you go live, so that you can be like, oh, instead of saying like steak, saying New York strip steak is performing better in Google searches for sous vides right now. So like just having those little tiny reminders of like, this is the SEO performing word, because if you lie on your blog post and like it points back to content that says is just generally about steak and not about what's trending well for your blog post, it's going to be like a break of trust, and people will either click off or they're not going to like trust you to read another blog. So just like think about those things when you're repurposing, like make your content evergreen, but at the same time, consider what SEO keywords are working, and then find the ones that actually are interchangeable that wouldn't break trust.
When I did a Chibo hands-on class, there was like this creamy lobster pasta with sous vide, and I was like, I don't have much about sous vide lobster on my site. So I did keyword research ahead of time, came up with a list of stuff, and it was like the questions that I could kind of answer when like the asparagus was cooking and when the pasta water was boiling, instead of just sitting there being like, oh, well, everyone, we're just waiting for our water to boil. Like I had go-tos that I knew people were searching for that would be easy to clip and easy to create articles around. And you do find random things. Like one was like, can you sous vide a live lobster? And I was like, I have no idea. I never would have thought to even talk about that in the class, but it was, people loved like hearing about it and like my thoughts on it. And we had a good, in the comments, someone was like, well, if you vacuum seal it first, like the pressure change kills it instantly. So it's actually pretty humane if you do it in an entire whole bag. I was like, there's a whole fun addition to the class. And I never would have done that if I wouldn't have done a little bit of research ahead of time.
And Stephanie Liu always talks about this when she's talking about like easy ways to create content from identifying a content pillar, but I think it can apply to just specific video topics in general. But when you're researching like your video topic, you should be researching what people are asking. So your FAQs, and then your like SAQs is what she calls them. So your should ask questions. Like these are what people are asking about sous vide lobster, but what should people be asking as well about sous vide lobster? Because if you answer all the frequently asked questions, it's likely they're going to make it to the should ask questions that they didn't think about looking up. So if you already have that content available, or you've already have talked about that in the live video, it's like you're one step ahead of where their brain is going to go next. So, and it can even lead to like a series of sous vide lobster videos, or like sous vide lobster like mini clips, and stuff along those lines. Like you don't have to get into the nitty gritty in a live video. Like certainly, like, some people won't want to see a 5-hour live video of you answering every question about sous vide lobster. So keep that in mind when you're looking up the FAQs and SAQs. But those are things that you should consider because it'll help you like build out your entire show.
And it's things that people care about. Like they talk about how much Google wants you to put out content that is answering questions and solving users' needs. And if this is stuff that is doing that, then, you know, if you have judged that like in a live class, I should talk to people about this, then it's probably something that Google's going to like. And then if people land on that page, they're going to stay longer. It's going to solve their problem and all those kind of good things for user experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting just looking at how much content you can repurpose from videos going all the way down just to, you know, written tweets. That it starts off as a big video and then it just ends up as a 1-sentence tweet.
And then, I mean, you're doing this with this podcast, this live video today, but you take the video, take the audio and make it into a podcast too. Like that's something that I feel like a lot of people are just jumping into the world of podcasting, but it's I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a low lift repurposing option for your live video, but if you take that time to identify like, okay, like, because when you're going live, you need to think about who you're talking to. You need to think about your viewers, obviously, but you're going to have different types of audience members. You're going to have a live audience and you're going to have a replay audience. So you want to make sure that content is like appropriate for both audiences. But if you're doing a podcast, then you also want to consider like the audio only podcast. So like if you're going to have visuals on your live video, then you want to make sure you're really thoroughly explaining the visuals, even though your live viewers and your replay viewers are going to see it. You still want your audio viewers to say, oh, like I get this. And I might watch the video to like make sure that I completely get it, but I should be able to fully understand it from there. And there's some tools that like allow you to repurpose your live videos super easily. I've never used them, but I think repurpose.io is one that I know some people are using, and it literally will connect to your social media accounts. So when your live stream is over, it'll like strip the video off your live stream and upload it just as it is, and just wait for your approval, I think, to click publish into your podcasting RSS feed, which is really cool. But then if you are looking for a little bit more like editing potential, Ecamm is really cool because it offers isolated audio tracks. So if you turn that feature on, you get a track for like every single guest that joins through the interview mode. So you get like your mic, your guest's mic. If you have 3 guests, you get 3 different audio sources. You get sound files, you get your movie files, like everything is separated. So if you accidentally hit the wrong sound effect, you can cut that out and nobody will ever know. So those are just things. There's another opportunity area there when it comes to repurposing that people don't consider, but a lot of people listen to podcasts like, and from the data that I've seen, podcast listeners are a lot more loyal when it comes to like being like brand representatives or like being like ride or die for your brands. Like they're more likely to click your link. They're more likely to show up when you go live. They're more likely to listen continually. So because it's like a more intimate form of communication, it's right in your ears. It's a low lift, so like people don't feel like they have to turn it off when they're transitioning from their car, because it's safer to listen to audio when you're driving, of course, versus live video. So there's just all those things to consider too when it comes to repurposing live video.
I think that's a huge benefit of Ecamm too. Like you're saying, having those separate tracks, like if anyone gets into doing interviews, you will get into 4 or 5 interviews probably before you have someone with a barking dog or traffic in the back. And it's fine while they're talking. You can't do a ton about that. But if the other person is talking and you're getting the audio and can't separate it, it's so hard. And even getting people's mics that are just different volumes to want to be able to boost up one person while not boosting the other is very time consuming if you don't have separate tracks. So that's a huge feature for Ecamm.
Yeah, it is. And then also like just the inevitable, right? When it comes to live video, like somebody someday is just going to have an internet problem. Like it's just the reality of how the internet works and how live video works with it. So when that happens and their audio gets a little wonky, no, it didn't. Not for your podcast users.
Yep.
And I like you were saying, like with the background noise, my downstairs neighbors were like hammering stuff into the wall like 5 minutes before I got on this call. I was like, oh God, not the hammering, but yeah, so that is a super helpful tool.
Well, I'm glad they finished building their IKEA furniture.
Yeah, they just moved down. They just moved in, like, well, from what I've heard, a few days ago. So they've been steadily hammering, as new people do. I'm not mad about it, but it is only inconvenient times.
Yeah, that tends to happen. Our upstairs neighbors do a lot of a cleaning, and they got a dog that's very hairy, so we understand it. It's, we generally don't care, but then every once in a while it's like, oh, I'm going live in 5 minutes, and the vacuum goes on. You're like, oh, good. I'll be hitting the mute button a lot over here to see it flashing. Caleb, I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your expertise. I love talking to you and hearing about all of your insights on video and repurposing. You always have such great information. And if the listeners want more, they can find you on LinkedIn at CLEBDEMPS, or they can find more about Ecamm on Instagram at Ecamm Network.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your great expertise. I learned a lot, and I think the listeners will as well.
You're so welcome. I love talking about it. I feel like I'm glad I get to talk about it at work, because if I didn't, then my partner wouldn't hear me shut up about it. But yeah, we can, like you said, you can find Ecamm Network anywhere. It's like Ecamm Network is our username everywhere. And if you want to try out Ecamm Live for free, it's a credit card free 14-day trial. So it's just ecamm.live. You can download it there. So
it's a great piece of software. I love using it, which is why I was excited to meet Caleb. And also, if you're on Clubhouse, make sure you follow Caleb. He does a lot over there. He's in a lot of rooms and always has really good insights into all the rooms over there.
That's Caleb at Ecamm. And then we have our own community club. I'm not on it as much this month, but I'll be back in May.
You can only go live so many platforms, right? Thanks for coming on, and thanks to everyone that was listening. We appreciate all of you providing your support and commenting. And join us Thursdays at makethatbacon.com/live, or search for Makin Bacon on your favorite podcast platform. It's been Makin Bacon, all about helping you serve your fans, grow your income, and get the most out of your blog. Till next time, I'm Jason Logston.